A tale of two presidents. One attended a swanky celebrity filled Hollywood fundraiser and had to be corralled off the stage by Barack Obama. And the other one went to a black church in Detroit and moved freely around the room all by himself. So take your pick, America. So it was another silver alert moment for Joe Biden over the weekend. Sure, his campaign raised about $30 million, but their candidate didn't seem to know who or where he was, but that's a typical Saturday for Joe Biden. Beyond the obvious tone deafness of the celebrity-filled event in Hollywood while average Americans are struggling to afford eggs in his economy, Joe seemingly had another senior moment on stage and had to be escorted off by former President Barack Obama after seemingly freezing on stage for about 8 seconds. But all the hacks in that room know Joe Biden is senile and decrepit old man, and I contend they are all guilty of promoting elder abuse. But on the flip side, and the polar opposite side of that spectrum, is Donald Trump, who turned 78 years old on Friday, but he hasn't skipped a beat. He also took the time to visit a black church in Detroit to meet with black voters and hear their concerns, something even Barack Obama apparently failed to do.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
It's about showing up and it's about giving a damn, and Trump does both. And that's why the mainstream media hacks are worried. In fact, watching Donald Trump win over black voters fills their pants like their candidate allegedly fills his diapers. They're full of it, all right? Siri, what is the definition of gaslighting?
I do have to ask, though, I mean, this is all thrown into sharp relief when the two men are on stage debating, right? And it already feels like, the first presidential debate is set for June 27th. It already feels like the bar that is set for Biden to clear is so much substantially higher than the one Trump has to clear, which is literally, is he alive? Is he standing? Are the words coming out of his mouth? Setting aside what the words actually are. And I wonder if there's any way for Biden to overcome what seems like a structural disadvantage on, in the weeks leading up to what's going to be a pretty important inflection point in this campaign.
I actually had to watch that a few times because her description made me think she had to be talking about Joe, but no, she actually wants you to believe that it's Donald Trump who will have difficulty standing and speaking. But it takes skilled mental gymnastics to pretend Biden has superior physical and mental attributes, but it also takes a real heartfelt and deep affinity for lying. If you're wondering why Americans don't trust the media, well, there's reason 2,000,005. Joining me now is the operator with Rob O Neill, host and former SEAL Team 6 member, Rob O Neill. Rob, I got to be honest with you. Over the weekend, I saw that clip of Joe Biden having to be corralled off the stage, not something that's abnormal for him. But what was abnormal, maybe not so much, is the Democrats and the Democrat influencers that labeled it misinformation, like somehow that was made up. Please, I don't know what they're watching, but Rob, please help me make sense of the liberalism that they are suffering from.
Thank you again for having me, Tommy. It's always great to talk with you. It's crazy. It's the whole who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? I mean, everyone's seen it. They saw the clip in Italy when they said, well, that's misinformation because he turned to look at a skydiver, and they said, well, no, President Obama came over as a buddy when President Obama doesn't even like Joe Biden, but he went over there to take him off the stage because he's freezing up. And they're bringing up these 2 points as misinformation. But what about the last 3 years? Full of gaffes. I mean, the guy comes out at noon and you can still see the marks from his CPAP, meaning he was sleeping the entire night. And it's completely ridiculous. I mean, we're all watching it. The Democrats now, the DNC and some of the spokespeople, everywhere from the State Department to the White House, they remind me of someone. You could literally catch one of them with their hand in the cookie jar and you're saying you're stealing cookies. No, I'm not. I see your hand. They say, oh, that's not my hand. That's misinformation. And that's what they're doing. And the sad thing is just less than 50% of the people in this country will believe it because they want to believe nonsense. It's the media doing it. You see them doing it. And it's almost laughable if there wasn't so much at stake.
What's so funny, I was actually on Piers Morgan's show earlier today, and I was on with two Democrats, one who's, still in the Joe Biden camp. And he tried to argue with me about that moment with Joe Biden on that stage. And he tried to say that Joe was just so enamored with the crowd because he's such a people person that he just wanted to stand on that stage and just take it in, and that Barack Obama maybe didn't want to stand on the stage as long, so that's why he came and got Joe and escorted him off. So really, that's what was happening. Joe was just such a man of the people that he wanted to stand there and stare blankly at them to just take in that moment. But this Democrat also tried to tell me that it's actually right-wing news and media that's fixated on Joe Biden's age, and that we're the ones that's putting this forward like Joe Biden is old because we really want that. And I reminded him, I hope they keep Joe as the nominee. There is no one easier to beat than Joe Biden. So the fact that right-wingers or right-wing media, that we have some stake in making Joe appear old when he's really not, I remind them we would love for Joe to just stay on that ticket.
Yeah, it's got to be the right-wing media. I love when they say the right-wing media, too, as if that's a thing. I mean, and the right-wing's got to be the reason that Joe has to climb down the short steps from Air Force One, why he has 4-inch sponges on his shoes so he doesn't fall over, and why it takes him about 45 seconds to put his aviator sunglasses on. The guy is clearly not with it anymore. He's clearly lost a lot of his mind. And it's not even like when I get upset watching it, first it's for the country because there are people behind Joe Biden just putting him up there. But the person to be upset with is Jill Biden. Dr. Jill Biden, excuse me, because she's the one putting him out there. This guy is embarrassing himself. Like it used to be kind of fun to joke with it. This is embarrassing. And everyone from Libya to Iran to the Palestinians, to Hezbollah, to all the terrorists that have come here through our southern border, they're all watching this and they're salivating. This is why we're so weak, because we put this man up there. He was making horrible decisions when he was sane. He's obviously got an issue, and he should be, living his twilight years at the beach where he lives in Delaware. Not just, well, I mean, granted, he takes 5 to 6 days off a week anyway, and he's there. But this is going to be serious for a lot of people. And this younger generation who's so far left, they're going to have to live with it. Guys like me, we fought. I'm here. I'll be fine. But the enemy has we have the clock, but the enemy has the time, and they're all watching.
Yeah. Well, that brings up another good point. So the House passed a bill that auto registers men 18 to 26 for the draft. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, that means war is coming. I'm not going to go that far. I think it was just an issue of technicality, like let's just auto register people rather than having people register themselves. I don't know. I mean, who knows? We could be in for another world war. I wouldn't be surprised at this point, but I'm interested in your take on that. And, there are some that say that women should be included in that. We don't even know what genders people are anymore. Everyone's a they, them. Should they, thems just be registered? Do you get an opt-out option if you are a they, them? I'm not sure how to untangle all of this, but as somebody who served our country in the military for so long, do you think we're ready to go to war if that day should come?
No, not as ready as we should be. The selective service has always been there for men over 18 and up. The draft is a horrible idea. Even back when people were patriotic, if you force someone to go to war, it's a bad idea. And I have 4 daughters. None of them are going to be in the military. I will not let them fight for whatever we say we're not fighting for our country anymore. We're fighting for politicians and lawyers to make a lot of money with big contractors. That's kind of what we're doing. And I'm certainly not sending a loved one to Ukraine, whatever that is. It's just, there shouldn't be a draft, but for me, having fought in a lot of wars and been in the military, it would be comical to watch some of these purple-haired Gen Zers be forced to go through boot camp. I would actually see if I get back in just to be an instructor to watch it, because we thought it was bad when they started putting in stress cards for, you're hurting me too much. I'm stressed. You can't do it. We're at a place right now, if like boot camp for the Marine Corps isn't online, they'll definitely be handing out medals for every single day that you don't kill yourself.
It's really sad. I mean, I don't know what would happen if there was a draft. I don't know how you get the green hairs to go. I mean, half of them are scared to go outside without a mask. The other half that are okay with going outside, they still wear their mask, but then they've got the Hamas flag and they're waving that around. They're queers for Palestine. I mean, I know that it feels like it's a majority of young people. I don't think it is. I think the majority of young people are still somewhat normal, but there is becoming a larger section of young people that are so confused. I mean, let's take the draft out of it. I just don't even know how we function as a society with what we're bringing up in this country.
Well, every branch of the service is having issues with recruiting and with retention. And the issue, too, is, I mean, look back at the government imposed lockdowns. Look at how many people were so eager to yell at you for not wearing a mask, so eager to turn their neighbor in for having too many people over. If China, if and when they decide to invade the West Coast, 30% of the fighting age people in this country are going to be collaborators. That they're just going to go with it because that's the path of least resistance, and that's where everyone is. And they want to be in their safe space. They certainly don't want to fight. And whenever you see them get confronted, they'll either gang up or put their own mask on and start burning the place down in a peaceful protest. Granted, we do have a lot of really good young people. I've met them. I've talked to high schools recently, and I've talked to colleges and stuff like that. There are good people out there. The problem with social media and with what they're reporting is, like Babe Ruth said, the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. So you're going to hear from the loud. Turn on Morning Joe any day and listen to that nonsense. That's what a lot of the young people are listening to. The ones on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. Well, you mentioned the retention rate. Another thing that, could have something to do with that, besides just the low morale and a lot of the patriotic Americans not wanting to serve under a president like Joe or, God forbid, Kamala Harris. But, I think it's interesting. There is nothing that Democrats won't spend money on. Just had another 10-year commitment to a losing endeavor in Ukraine. But one thing that the White House does draw the line on is raising the pay for junior enlisted. It's supposed to be a 19.5% pay increase, and the White House says, no. We have to save that money for Zelensky and for illegal immigrants. But as for those military folks, not worth it. When you hear something like that, as somebody who's in the military, someone that served our country, what do you make of it? Do you think it should be enraging, or do you think this is kind of par for the course?
Well, it's definitely par for the course because they know the people who raise their right hand to serve this country, they're not going to complain as much as they potentially should. I mean, not complain, but at least petition to try to get a raise. And they're happy with any raise they're going to get. But just to see them just throwing the answer for the government is just throw money at it because, basically everyone in the government's never run a payroll. They don't know. They think money's for free. They think that you can just forgive student debt and stuff like that. They should be. I remember people that could barely afford their mortgage. They're out there cutting their own grass, and then were asked to go jump into the Indian Ocean to rescue Captain Phillips from Somali pirates 16 hours later. And it was never about the money. But now with the retention, the issue is they want electric tanks. They want to put Chinese-made solar panels on the Pentagon. They want to feed troops lab-grown meat because they got this nonsense that the cows are farting too much and it's going to make the planet melt, as if every other animal on the planet doesn't fart. There's so much behind that, but they want to experiment. All the DEI they're pushing at the troops. It's sad. You got a group here that the Pentagon can't even pass their own budget, and that alone causes them cost them $1 billion to fail a budget. I guarantee. There's no paperwork for Ukraine. I bet you didn't know this. A lot of weapons in Ukraine are making their way to Libya for Al Qaeda to use. Write that down too. No one wants to talk about that. There's bad stuff going everywhere, to include the weapons we left behind, the M4s, the M16s that are going from Afghanistan to Iran. There's so much bad stuff going on, and we're trying to figure out which bathroom boys should go into.
Yeah, the Ukraine thing always really enrages me. And then we just had another 10-year commitment to Ukraine. I'm sure we'll do some nation building there. But, Zelensky, even in these talks, Zelensky doesn't want a peace agreement. He's not going to give up anything. There's no diplomatic solution there. But why would he come to the table when we're going to fund him in perpetuity? This is just really us throwing money. And I've heard some folks say, the Ukrainians are not allowed to use the full scope of American weaponry. Maybe we should give them more capability, should send more there. And, if they want to win, maybe that's part of it. But to me, what it says, if we let them use whatever, is, as you mentioned, well, what happens after the fact? Who's getting it? Do we really know where these weapons are going? We don't know where the money's going. We don't know where the weapons are going. And once again, it seems like we're funding both sides of the war. That seems to be our thing.
Well, the only time we follow the money is once it gets to the American taxpayer and we give it to Congress. They line their pockets along with the other big contractors, and then it vanishes as far as they're concerned. And we're going so far as the president of the United States apologized for not giving him more money soon enough. And Zelensky doesn't even have the common courtesy to wear a suit. It's like he's going to hit 18 holes in his little golf thing or whatever. He has to use the ladies' clubs because he's a little guy. But he's sitting there complaining about money, not because he's worried about the Russians. He needs to get a new yacht. a bigger one for his friends. I mean, this dude doesn't give a rip. He's an actor that was placed there. He's getting really rich off this. I mean, you follow the money, see how much of it his wife is spending on jewelry when she goes to Paris.
Yeah. Well, and just the vanity of all of it, him coming to all the Hollywood events and, him really wanting to soak up the limelight, him addressing a joint session of Congress was so embarrassing to me. Then you've got the Democrats that are wearing Ukraine flags and they're shouting for Ukraine. I mean, it's so embarrassing. It's never going to end. We just keep spending money and spending money and spending money. And, these people, they're not like us. They're not like us in a lot of ways, but especially when they try to be like us. So I have to bring up on a lighter note, Chuck Schumer attempting to grill. I know this seems like a small thing in the scope of things, but I don't for the life of me know any grown man who puts cheese on a raw burger. I don't even know if that's safe. But what do you think of this? Do you think that this shows he's just an average American guy, an average American dad?
This is proof that Chuck Schumer is what the rest of them are, a career politician who's never had to carry their own suitcase, never opened their own door. This guy has literally no idea what he's doing. All he's doing right there is he wanted to prove in that tweet that he didn't delete, though. I tried to go find it. That would have been awesome. If you can get me a copy of that, I'd love it. But he just said he was at his daughter's house with her wife. He was just proving that his daughter's gay, and that's great. But I mean, to go out there and try to be a man to run a grill like that is pathetic. And you've seen it before. You've seen the governor of New York try that stuff. It's proof they cannot relate to you. And they're gonna speak as slowly as they can and make you all these promises and then get reelected and then go make just incredible stock picks. That's amazing how it's almost like they have insider trading going on. It's amazing a place where you can go in worth nothing and come out worth $100 million. These guys are clowns. We complain about it and then we reelect them. So I mean, everything from the rampant corruption and cheating that goes on. There's got to be term limits, but the problem is, guess who votes on the term limits? Never going to happen. We are a banana republic right now. We're pulling stuff that even like Ecuador's looking at us like, what the heck is going on in the United States? It's almost like, hey, if you're leaving one of the 70 countries to come here to avoid third world stuff, just turn around because we got it going on here too.
Yeah, no, we certainly do. But unfortunately, we just keep funding it. I'll get to that in a minute. But you mentioned excellent stock picks, so I couldn't help but think of Nancy Pelosi. So again, just add this to the list of how they gaslight us. Nancy Pelosi is saying how not only Trump's family, but just Republican voters, we've heard it all the time, we're deplorables. Chuck Schumer called us an immoral majority or whatever we are. But Nancy Pelosi, she thinks that Donald Trump's family, not the Biden family, but Trump's family needs to intervene. Let's take a listen to this advice from Nancy Pelosi, the excellent stock picker.
But I do wish there would be an intervention from his family, assuming they love him beyond the resources, assuming that they love him, that they would intervene, that the Republican Party would have an intervention. They have become a cult to a thug. And that is really a tragedy for the grand old party and what they were.
It seems to be that Donald Trump's the only thug that the Democrats don't wrap their arms around.
That's all they got. They can say he's a thug, and they can say he's a felon because we all know what nonsense happened there. And I mean, if he did anything illegal, they would have found it by now. Here's a guy that just made a bunch of money changing the New York skyline, and they've tried to tear him down so bad that most people don't want to invest in New York again because it's a cesspool. And all they can say is he's a felon, and we're defending democracy. And I mean, they don't even know the difference between a Republican and a democracy. I mean, democracies always fail. We're a republic. We're a democracy on one day when we're voting, and then we're supposed to put in someone who represents us for what we do. But thank God we have TikTok, so no Americans know how that works. But yeah, I mean, it's all they're going to do is name call. They're going to get Hollywood stars. Biden's going to freeze on stage. They're going to say we're wrong because it didn't work out that way. It was a bad camera angle, and it's just going to be business as usual. And then it's like, okay, are the NBA finals on tonight? Let's just get distracted.
Yeah, I don't think anybody watches the NBA anymore. So that's actually another good thing, another viral moment that I want to bring up with you. I don't know if you've been following some of the catfighting within the WNBA.
Yes.
I mean, here's the deal. I think people they're watching for Caitlin Clark. But now, unfortunately, I feel like people are watching like they would watch UFC because they want to see one of these other players take Caitlin Clark down. So it seems like people are watching, waiting for the next cheap shot. But that whole thing, once again, Caitlin Clark, she's attacked and they say it's just basketball. I mean, I'm not a basketball player, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that doesn't look like normal gameplay to me. But what do you make of all of this? And do you think that the WNBA can survive it?
The WNBA is always going to survive because they are funded by the NBA because they want to make the WNBA a thing. The only reason to watch the WNBA is because Caitlin Clark went in there. I bet nobody listening to this right now can name 3 teams, let alone 3 players. No. People are watching for Caitlin Clark. And right now, just because of what people, I think her name is Angel Reese. I know her name because she just keeps doing, flagrant fouls. But I think the crowd they're going after right now is the same crowd that watches the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I never understood how people can relax watching that because they're just screaming and fighting and whatever. But I mean, it can be entertainment. But like when I heard someone say, I'm going to mess this up, but they said, the women in the NBA, they don't want to make what the men are making. They just want to make a percentage of the revenue. Someone did the math on it. They said if they took the same percentage that NBA players take, each player in the WNBA would owe $80,000 a year. So it's not like it's money hand over fist. They're doing what they always do. It's the same thing with a dude winning a women's pageant. They're trying to make it a thing with DEI, like we care. I mean, the only reason to watch the WNBA is the same reason you'll go outside and watch a car wreck.
Yeah. Well, and Caitlin Clark, to her credit, really did bring a lot of eyeballs because she's a phenom and people want to watch her. But what I think is so sad about all of this is the girl really just wants to play basketball. She doesn't want to be dragged into a political discussion. And I give her a lot of credit for that because she's really trying to stay above the fray. I mean, she has to play with a lot of different people. She has to play with a lot of women, black, white, straight, lesbian. And the last thing she wants to do is go and piss off the black players or the lesbian players that already hate her outright. So she's really trying to rise above it. And I understand that. And I feel for her. But when the media does talk to her about it, it's like, hey, like you understand that you're being used to promote racism or like the right is using you. And she has to kind of sit there and apologize. Like, I'm sorry they keep knocking me down. Like I should just fall down on my own, I guess. I feel like that's what they want her to say. Like, I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm straight. I'm sorry I'm good. I will try to do worse.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to bait her into this, and she's been classy. I haven't obviously been around the team, but I guarantee her teammates love her because her work ethic is insane. I think the Fever need to do a trade. They need to get an enforcer like you would in hockey, or find someone that's not quite good enough to play, but they're good enough to kick some ass and get her on Caitlin's side. And I mean, jealousy is a very stinky perfume, and it's all over the WNBA. I'm impressed with the way she handles it with class, and she did get snubbed by the U.S. Olympic team, which is an issue because a lot of people won't watch it now just out of protest. But I don't feel too bad for Caitlin Clark because she does go home every night and sleep on a huge pile of money.
Yeah. Well, it's just sad for her, though, because she's doing the best that she can, and she doesn't want to be dragged into this, but she's going to be. And the people that are trying to make a come up off of hating on her, especially in sports media, to me, it's just so disgusting. But I hope for her that she can get above it and get beyond it, and that this hazing will eventually end, and that all the rest of the haters will eventually dissipate, because they're going to come up off of her as well. But boy, maybe this is why women's sports just never really seem to take off. Unless there's one that's stuck in Russia because she brought her weed oil, or when they're beating up on the poor white straight girl. I mean, I don't know what to make of it, Rob. Here we are.
Yeah.
But
I think she's going to do what Donald Trump's going to do, and she's going to win by success. She's the all-time leading scorer in college basketball history, not just women's basketball history. So she'll be fine. She's going to do well. She's a rookie, and who knows? Maybe eventually she'll be the voice of reason. I mean, if she's in town, I'll watch her.
Yeah. Well, she's the hope for the women's sports, but unfortunately, they got to keep squashing women's sports, whether it's with dudes or whether it's hating on the stars. I don't know what to make of this, but it just kind of goes back to our initial thought of we are just really screwed if there's a draft. Rob, thank you as always for joining me. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon. Maybe after that first debate, we can do a performance review of Joe Biden.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. All right, folks, on to something else that's super enraging. An illegal immigrant rapes and murders a mom of 5, but I'm sure that he was just searching for a better life, right? It's time for Final Thoughts.
Rachel was not his first victim, and it's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country, and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this. And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally.
Biden's open border death toll grows after a criminal illegal alien allegedly raped and murdered Rachel Morin, a mother of 5. As you just heard, Hartford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gawler explain, the illegal immigrant murderer is supposedly a repeat offender. He murdered in his country, he came illegally into ours thanks to Joe Biden, and he murdered again. Prior to his rape and murder of Rachel Morin, a DNA match suggests he was also responsible for the brutal attack on a 9-year-old girl and her mother in an LA home invasion. The world is emptying its murderers, rapists, felons, thugs, and unwanted into our country, and Joe Biden and Democrats want us to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like we should just let in millions and wait and see how many are dangerous and violent. But this is going to keep happening, my friends. There are millions of them in our country, and more are coming each and every single minute of each and every single day. Biden's so-called border order did nothing, and it did nothing by design. But pay attention, because the real plan is in the works. Sources tell CBS News the Biden administration is preparing policy that would grant legal status to those who have lived in the U.S. illegally for at least 10 years. The proposal is touted as parole in place and would offer deportation protection and work permits, as well as a pathway to citizenship. The unveiling of this plan could happen as soon as tomorrow at the White House 12-year anniversary celebration event for so-called dreamers. The Democrats do not have a cap on how many they'll let in either. It's infinity and beyond. And to the liberals out there that still think this is fine, well, how loving and tolerant will you be when an illegal jumps out of a culvert and rapes and murders one of your loved ones? This will be the death of America. No one is safe. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow again at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. Until then, from Nashville, God bless and take care. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tomi Lahren is Fearless. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you'll never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.